Before you bill customers and create invoices in Hydroscribe, you have to determine how the due date for each invoice will be calculated and when to charge the customer a late fee if they're late in paying their invoices. So to do that, we're going to go to Preferences and click on Default Late Policy Settings. Now, there are two sets of policies on this screen. Up at the top here, that top portion is for regular monthly bills. And then halfway down, you'll see this line, and then more settings which define a policy for work orders and service requests. We'll just be using the top portion because both sets are identical. And if you know how to use one, you'll know how to use the other. Okay, so in a previous video, we covered using a fixed number of days after billing. So in this video, we're going to cover something different. Let's look at that option. Always use the same day of the month. So what this means is, regardless of when I bill, whether I bill on the 1st, the 3rd, the 5th, the 8th, doesn't matter. The due date on the invoice is always going to be on the same day of the month. The next thing I have to do is tell the system what day of the month that is. So I'm going to come down to the field that says payment is always due on, and choose that day of the month. Let's say it's going to be the 20th day of the month. So now I have told the system that the due date is always going to be on the same day of the month, the 20th day of the month. So now I have to tell the system when is the invoice to be considered late and when to actually charge a late fee for that invoice. Now, in this field, it's late after X number of days. We have some more choices. So let's look. I can, for example, say, even though the due date is the 20th day of the month, I'm going to allow this customer an additional 4 days in which to pay that invoice before the system actually charges a late fee. Okay? So inside of this field is where you determine whether you want to give them extra time. You can always choose 0 for immediately charging a late fee, but let's be generous and give them additional 4 days. Okay, then I have to decide, do I want to charge a percent of the bill or do I want to charge a flat amount, dollar amount? So let's say I want to charge them 10% of the bill, then I would put 10 in the late fee percent field. If not, I would leave that field zeros and then put in a dollar amount. Let's say, for example, I want to charge a $20 late fee. I would put $20 in the late fee amount field. Then to activate the policy, I have to go to the late fee frequency field and choose one of the options. Notice that it defaults to do not charge a late fee. The policy is not active. So to activate the policy, you have to choose one of these three. Either I'm going to charge them each day that the payment is late, or each week that the payment is late, or each month. So let me go ahead and just set it to each week that the payment is late. So now for each week that the payment is late, and late means the due date is the 20th of the month, and I gave them an extra 4 days. After that, they're late, so I'm going to charge them $20 each week. Then the last thing I have to decide is, when do I want to send out the first reminder? Now, since I'm giving them 20 days, I could pick, for example, the 15th day to send them the first reminder. So, in which case I just choose 15 from the list. This is just the first reminder though, because each time that the system is going to charge a late fee, it will send that reminder again. So they will get a reminder for every time that they're going to be charged a late fee. The first reminder will go out 15 days after the bill date. Okay, so now all I have to do is scroll down to the bottom and click submit, and now that policy is in effect. So the customer will always have a due date of the 20th of the month when an invoice is produced. The only other thing to keep in mind is this. Since you're saying that the due date is always going to be the 20th of the month, If you bill on a date that's after the 20th of the month, then the due date will be the 20th day of the following month. So if you bill, for example, on June 25th, then the due date is going to be set to July 20th. Okay? So that's how you set up this policy.